Oh, hey there, welcome back to the channel, and today we're talking part 2 of buying a used 90s era Bally or Williams pinball machine. So stay tuned. Did you know that 90% of the people that watch my videos aren't even subscribed to the channel? And it only takes a second. Just hit the subscribe button, like it, maybe hit the notification bell so you'll get notified when new videos come out. Trying to get to 1,000 subscribers in the next month would be amazing. So with that out of the way, let's look at our first tip. First thing I want to talk about is let's look at the playfield glass condition. So you can kind of see there's scratches all over the place on this piece of glass. Now, this isn't that big a deal, but if the seller's wanting top dollar, you know, this is a good bargaining chip or negotiation. New glass is probably about 50 bucks. You can also get the Invisiglass non-reflective, so you can see like my light is reflecting there. The Invisiglass really greatly cuts down the glare from lights or the display shining down on the back of the playfield. And looking at the playfield, one of the things you definitely want to look at if there's any wear in the paint and or holes from someone doing a horrible repair or screw poking through the wood because they used a longer screw when they were fixing the flipper mechanisms, because sometimes these screws that hold the mechanism on will jiggle out and they'll put a longer screw in there and they'll poke through the wood. So luckily this game does not have that. One of the other things you want to look at when you're looking at wear, shooter lane can get really beat up along your scoops, kick out areas, your rollover lanes. Those are all areas, especially if a ball drops down. You can see on this one, the wood and the clear coat is worn away just a little bit, and also around the pop bumpers. So just check all the scoops, make sure everything looks clean and pretty. So on the Theater of Magic, this has got some wear areas. You can see right here under Metamorphosis, right there, the paint is actually coming away, has been worn away. And also in front of the flippers is another high wear area because the ball comes in, hits it, it's spinning, it'll stop, and then it flicks out. So around here is a high wear area. Right next to the trunk, there's a post to the right, just to the right, and the paint is all worn away there. So that's some things to look at. This game has a scoop on the back. It looks pretty good. So look at your playfield, look at the wear, take your time looking at it. Now, if the machine has been shopped out, make sure that, you know, it's got good quality rings on it. I like to use Titan bands on all my stuff. That's kind of the new thing over the last 5 years, I guess. So this one I've started to shop out. So if you are buying a shop game, take a good look and make sure all the rings have been replaced. So I haven't got to this side yet. So that's an original black rubber ring. So just make sure the work's been done if you're getting a shopped game. Now the next thing I want to talk about is your ramps. Those are high areas for breakage, especially around the entrances right in here. Now these ramps are actually in pretty good shape, but you'll see cracking on the top or where it bends and it makes that curve to come down. That's another area that likes to break because that ball hits that edge. And if some of these games have metal ramp protectors, you can see it right there. So those are another area to look at. And if the ramps are dirty, don't worry about it. You can easily clean them. Some of these ramps you can't even buy. There's a lot of companies that are doing reproductions now, but 5-10 years ago, you'd be hard pressed to find replacement ramps for certain games. Now, this game actually has a lot of broken plastics. So let's talk about playfield plastics now. This particular game has the trunk toy, which gets bashed up really badly. This one's actually really in bad shape. You can see all the pieces that are missing around the bottom. And also check your plastics, all the plastics. So this one has a big chunk missing out of it right there. And there's some pieces missing in the back. And what's really funny is someone has back here put a slingshot plastic in place of what was there or a broken piece. So if you want some bonus points with me in the comments, let me know what slingshot this game is from. So let's look at the Twilight Zone and just kind of do some other checks. So this is really loose, so that needs to be tightened up. All the plastics on this game are in pretty good shape. They're just really dirty. Like these ramps are just super dirty. So again, another thing to look for is just check, especially if the game's been shopped and you see this, then it hasn't been shopped correctly. So the next thing we want to look at is the back box and what's going on back there. You want to check the condition of the back glass or translite on these 90s era machines. Look for any scratches, burn marks, scrapes. There's a little bit of wear right here. There's a scratch right in this area here. But I mean, overall, this translite looks pretty decent. So once you get the translite off, next thing you want to do is take a peek in the back box area. Now you can immediately see that this has got some lights that aren't working. And this is another thing I'm going to show you, which is common on these 90s era Williams games. So to pull the back box light board out of the way, you just lift up on this latch and it hinges out, exposes the electronics. So if you're unfamiliar with Williams and Bally 90s era games, you've got 5 main boards. Certain games have a 6th board. So you've got your flipper controller, you've got your sound board, you've got your display board. This is a 8 auxiliary driver board for if your game has a lot of extra features, like Twilight Zone and Indiana Jones have these boards. So does Star Trek Next Generation. And then this is your main power driver board. This drives all the lights and the flashers, some of your switch stuff. That's a board that will have some things I'll go over in a second. And then over here is your main CPU. This has the game ROM and it drives a display controller, holds all your high score memories, and you can pull the speaker panel up and out of the way like that, and it just folds down. So some of the things you're going to want to look at, is there any hacked wiring? Have they like cut things and then, you know, tape things together over here? One of the problems is with these 90s era games is the general illumination, which are the white lights that stay on all the time. When these games were in bars and that sort of thing, they were on, you know, 13, 14 hours a day, and these plugs would get hot and they would start to melt and burn and discolor. So you can look at these. Now this has been changed. This one has been changed except for this one pin. I don't know why they didn't change. Maybe they didn't have a Molex that was long enough. But anyways, the fault for the lights is going to be in the wiring over here, and I bet I can wiggle these lights and get them to come back on. But check the Molexes, make sure there's no burn areas, and you'll see it'll look black right here, right on the edge. It'll be all black right there, and you'll see it had been hot. Check your fuses, make sure there's no tin foil or paper clips bridging a fuse that's been blown. Check for any hacked transistors. Sometimes they'll just cobble one on and they won't take the board off. One of the things that I went ahead and did on these older games is that these bridge rectifiers right here can weaken. They're kind of like car tires or light bulbs. They do wear out and then they'll just fail. So the most common one to replace is this one right here, which is BR2. And that usually, if you're playing one of these games, a Williams or Bally, and you hit both flippers together and the game shuts off and it comes right back up, that's because this bridge rectifier is getting weak and it needs to be replaced. I went ahead and changed all bridge rectifiers. I also recapped the game. You can buy these cap kits from Marco Specialties. They're not very expensive, and it's a wise investment just to keep trouble-free operation for years to come. So make sure that all the wires are there. There's no hacks on all these plugs. Check for any burns on these Molexes. It's primarily going to be these two right here that are going to be your trouble Molexes. Make sure everything is there, all the boards are there, and if you really wanted to get picky, you can see there's serial numbers on each board set, and you can see if all the boards are original or if they've been replaced. Now this one has a replacement DMD controller. I do actually have the original board that came with it, so I still have all the original boards, but you can tell this one's been changed out because it's a lot newer build, and Rotten Dog is 5-10 years old now, so they make good products, but this game isn't all original as far as all their boards, all the serial numbers matching up with everybody. So one very important tip, always check the CPU batteries. This is caused by acid damage from leaking batteries. That's a very important thing that people forget to change their batteries once they start to get old and they leak. It goes right down onto the circuit board. As you can see in this picture, it's totally ruined. On this particular board, this was in the machine when I got this machine, and it was causing all sorts of strange switch issues. I tried to clean the board up as best as possible, And I even replaced a couple of chips that were just completely corroded, but ultimately I had to buy a new CPU board. So those are some of the things you want to look at when you're looking at electronics. Even though you might not know what you're looking at, you can at least see if something has been hacked together. Just take your time and look through everything. If you're unsure, maybe get an expert in your area to come with you to inspect a game for purchase. Another thing to check is your dot matrix display. Is it bright? Does it take a second to come on? If older dot matrices that are dying, you'll see that the display kind of is missing, and then it slowly starts to come on around the edges, and then after about 10 minutes the display comes up. So that's an indication of a weak display driver board. Sometimes there could be segments missing. So this is on these little dot matrices, they're on a grid system, and you can see this last line is not working. That O is slightly chopped off. That should have some information right there on the end. You can see it right there. It's missing. So there's an issue with this dot matrix. Now it's not too bad because it's just the last line, but those are some things you also might want to keep an eye out. Now, when it shows credits and it shows a dot next to it, that means the game has detected a problem. What's really cool is that on the menu system, you can go into test mode and it will tell you what's wrong with it. So let's do that right now, and that's done by hitting the enter button on this control board on the coin door. That's all right. Okay, so this is telling me that there's a checksum sound error and the clock is not working, which is a common problem on some of these Twilight Zones. So it just gave me 2 errors and I didn't even have to do a thing but just press the 1 button. So the pinball machine will tell you sometimes if it's not happy. So I hope you found some of these tips helpful. Leave a comment below if there's anything I might have missed or something you wanted to add. It'll be helpful for other viewers that read the comments. So until next time, stay tuned and keep flipping.